Hello everyone and welcome to the new kitchen. Last beer brewing video that I did, or last update video for the beer brewing process that I did was back at the old place down in Hilliard that I was living at. The beer I was brewing down there, it turned out really good, and it's really dark for some reason, even though, you know, the instructional video on the DVD that came with the beer kit, it showed the beer being really light in color. At the time though I was brewing, it was typically is 14 days I was letting the beer brew or ferment in the keg, and the last brew that I did down there, that was in June of 2023. I let it brew for 13 days, and it was still really dark, as you can see in this picture. And I could never get it to get lighter in color or anything like that for some reason. So in last year, it's actually last February, I did another brew. Again, it was 13 days, but this time, as you can see here in the comparison between the bottle from the last brew from Hilliard and to the one from the first batch up here in Bucyrus, there's a noticeable change in the two brews. The first brew from up here came out really light or in color, and a lot clearer. And I'm not sure exactly what happened. I do know that there are two differences between down there and up here. One, I switched from using Giant Eagle brand water for the brewing process, and then up here I switched to Kroger brand, and so I don't know if switching the brands of water made a difference or not, but there was that, and then plus I'm no longer, you know, keeping the keg in a cooler to do the fermentation process. Now it's in this pantry cabinet, which we'll see here in a moment. So that first batch that I brewed, it came out noticeably a little lighter in color and a lot clearer. And then the next brew that I did in March, again, it was a 13-day brew like the other one, and it too is still a little on the dark side, but it's clearer in color. And then the lager is, for some reason, when I did the first brew of the lager in June, it was clear, but went back to being a little bit dark, but it was still a lot clearer than what it had been down in Hilliard. So then at the end of June, I did another brew. It's a 13-day brew, and that one was also came out pretty light, like the other first two that I did down when I was here at the house. And so then it was back, what was it, September, I brewed another batch. This time though, I brewed it on, I think it was Labor Day, and the second Saturday afterwards I bottled it, and so that was a 12-day brew instead of 13. And as you can see in this picture, it really lightened up the color of the beer. And I noticed too, when I tasted it, it came out a lot smoother in flavor and or in taste and everything. And it's really, really good beer. It's probably the best brew that I've done since I started this whole thing. So anyways, back the Saturday before Christmas, I did another brew, that evening. I got back from a Christmas dinner that evening and did another brew that we're going to look at here in a few moments, and then I bottled that on New Year's Day. So that was like a 10.5 day brew. The reason I've been trying to go a little shorter is because back when I first got the beer kit, the Mr. Beer website was saying it takes to ferment the beer for 14 days. They've since changed it to 10 days at a minimum. So this last time I tried going, it actually came out 10.5 days because I bottled late in the evening, and then 10 days after the next day it was 10.5 days. But anyways, I tasted it when I first took the keg out, and there's no sweetness or anything, so it was ready to bottle. So we'll see here in a few moments, how that turned out, and then but first I'm going to show you how my new setup is here in the house for brewing beer. Come back, get some popcorn ready because I want to watch a movie after bed. And then, we'll pop open a bottle of the latest batch, and we'll see how that turned out. So back when I was living in Hilliard, I had a smaller kitchen than what I have now, so at the old townhouse, and didn't have as much storage space. Thankfully, this kitchen has a lot more cupboard space and pantry space than what I had down there. This is the new setup that I have for my beer brewing. Up on the top shelves we have the original keg on the left and the second keg on the right, that I got with one of the sales promos for Mr. Beer. Second shelf down, we have the bottles that are in rotation in the box on the left, and then we have the cans of liquid malt extract. And then on the right's another box of bottles, a dozen bottles that I haven't used those yet, just because I've got enough bottles in rotation now. But I got those through it was a sales promo that they had for Mr. Beer. The next shelf down on the left, that's all the extra packets of bonus liquid malt extract, the booster for increasing the alcohol volume of the beer, as well as packets of cleanser for cleaning the kegs in the bottle, or bottles I should say. Down the bottom of the left side, or next shelf down on the bottom, is a third keg that I got recently. A friend of mine, he stopped using his keg. He had different bottles, so I didn't keep his bottles, plus his bottles were kind of dirty, but the keg cleaned up nicely, so I got a third keg for if I ever need it. So then over on the right is where I keep the bottles that have been fermented and are carbonated, or carbonating, I should say. Basically, the older brews are on the left, and then as I get 10 bottles freed up, I do another brew, and they go on the right. So everything basically left to right in terms of age, with older on the left and new on the right. So, and I also have the fridge thermometer that I was using with when I was brewing the kegs in the cooler. So I can keep constant watching the temperature for here in the cabinet. Down the floor there is a furnace vent down here, which it's a little concerned about with that it might get too hot with the furnace on or too cold with the AC on. But with the cabinet doors kept closed, it keeps about 72 degrees in here, which is right in the middle of the 68 to 76 degrees that's needed for properly brewing and storing the keg, or storing the beer. So Um, but really nice thing about this setup compared to down to Hilliard is down to Hilliard, everything except for the bottles that had beer in them, everything was in boxes in my upstairs home office, which kind of made it convenient not having to go back up and down the stairs to bring everything down to brew. But now I've got everything here, right here in the kitchen, so anytime I want to brew and I've got the proper number of bottles freed up, or we'll have the proper number of bottles freed up to do the bottling, I can brew anytime I want. And another nice thing too, down in Hilliard, I was putting the keg in the cooler to keep it protected. Now with it on the shelf, it's easier to actually see in the keg and see what's going on with the beer. Because if you remember, right after you put the yeast in, within like the next day or two, it's really foaming up and stuff, and having it up here on the shelf and stuff in the keg or in the cooler, it makes it easier to shine a light in the keg to see what's going on with the beer and monitor it and everything. So really turned out nice for nice new feature with the kitchen, not just with more covered space for everything else I've got in my kitchen, but in a bigger kitchen. But having a nice little setup here for doing all my beer brewing. Just turned out pretty nice. So now we're going to go ahead and do the popcorn. The way I like to do the popcorn, if you remember right from the previous updates, I was using Jiffy Pop for my popcorn. Problem with that is, ever since the pandemic, Jiffy Pop's been really hard to find. I think the miners on the west side of Hilliard, down there, is where I was getting it last. But even then, it was often sold out. And not only that, but I've since read about how Jiffy Pop uses the same preservatives that they use in microwave popcorn, which I've heard is not really good, because that's still supposed to be really bad if you eat too much of it, get too much of it in you and everything. So I've just been recently, well, ever since then, for the past couple of years, I've been kind of going back to the old-fashioned way that we used to use when I was a kid, which is basically just use regular kernels of popcorn and then popping oil and pop it right on the stove. So basically, the kernels I was using Giant Eagle brand, which is probably the cheaper of the brands that they had at Giant Eagle down there in Hilliard. Up here in Bucyrus at the Kroger up here, they only have Orville Redenbacher, which I found when I switched to that, using the same amount of kernels as what I was using with the Giant Eagle brand, the popcorn does pop a lot fluffier like they advertise. So be careful if you're switching to the Orville Redenbacher, because you might end up with a lot more popcorn than you anticipated if you're switching from another inferior brand. Also for the popping oil, I was using the Orville Redenbacher popping oil for the butter flavor. They don't have that for some reason up here in Bucyrus recently, so I have been getting their, it's called from Colonel Seasons, it's their movie theater butter. And we'll go ahead and get this in here. And for the popcorn I use, or from popcorn I make, typically what I will do, I use 3 tablespoons, although the way I measure it, if you ever watched Justin Wilson, the Cajun chef, years ago, I kind of measure it his way. So we'll go ahead and do 3 tablespoons. There's 1, 2, 3. All right. Basically, you just want to get the bottom of your cup or your pot here covered with oil. flavor in mine, so that's kind of why I use a little more than just the regular 3 teaspoons or tablespoons. But we have a little bit of dribblage there. Alright. Alright, so what you want to do, and one thing too, you want to make sure this is vented when you pop the popcorn. Usually on the lid you'll want to leave it ajar so that the steam can escape out. Fortunately for me, I've got a pot here with a vented lid already, so I've got the vent open on that. What we're going to do now is go ahead and just get 3 kernels out. These are the test kernels that you put in until the pot is heated up to the temperature you want it for popping. So we'll go ahead and get this on. I turn it up usually about halfway. This takes about the same amount of time as when I was down here with a gas stove. It took a little adjusting, but fortunately the glass top stove that came with the house here, it heats up pretty quickly. I just remembered the word that I was struggling to remember when I was thinking about the water that I was using for the beer. You want to use spring water, not distilled water or drinking water. Spring water has a lot of the minerals and everything that is needed to get the fermentation going in the... Oh, there's one. Get the fermentation going in the beer when you brew it. So here's one pot. Two. And 3. So we turn off the burner. We want to get these out of here because when we go to pop the rest of these are just going to burn or get scorched. So cool these down a little bit. Alright. So now we'll go ahead and scoop. When I was trying to figure out how much to use before, when I first started this method, I was using 2/3 of and it was heaping scoops of kernels to match what was in the Jiffy pot. Although lately, since switching to Rumbacher, I usually use about a little extra. So I switch from 1/3 scoops or 1/3 of a cup scoops to 1/4 cup scoops. So a little over half a cup. So we got those in there. Now what we want to do before we turn the burner back on, shake this around. This is getting the oil all over the kernels. So they're ready to go. Excuse me. Yep, those are good. Try to get them a little more even. Turn the burner back on. First time I did this method, Smokey came running. He heard the popping and he could not figure out what was going on with all this noise coming from this pot on my stove. on the kernels sizzling right now, so. Smells really good too. It's one of the best smells, I think, in my opinion, is freshly popping popcorn. I just heard a kernel pop, so it's starting. One thing I like to do too, get a little agitation to get it really popping. Another thing I found too, using this method, you have a lot less unpopped kernels of popcorn. Because even with Jiffy Pop, there's always a bunch of unpopped kernels. And this way there's not very much left unpopped. This is filling up pretty good, so. Get some salt ready. Alright, so it's slowed down enough, I'm going to go ahead and call it done. You might be thinking that's a lot of salt to be putting on that. Keep in mind that's all on top right now. So whether you're putting salt or whatever seasoning you're doing, once you put it on there like that, just pick up the pot and this shakes down through. So, take that off. Inside, get the burner off. Isn't that yummy? now it's time to check out the beer. So we'll go ahead and get a bottle out here. Make sure I'm grabbing the latest brew, which, yep. And glass out of the freezer, because I always like to chill my glasses for this. It's carbonated, but not really foamy, but so it's still a little dark. It's lighter than what it did last time I did the lager. But big thing is the taste. How does it taste? Ooh, that's good. Yeah, like this last brew where I did 12 days. This has a good smooth flavor to it. Much smoother than it did before. But I did the 13 days, so. Alright. There we have it. Another good success story with Mr. Beer. So anyways, hope you enjoyed this update. If you have any questions about the brewing process, let me know. I'll be glad to answer any questions you might have. And until the next time, see you in the next video.